What up, though?
Homer, what turned you from sad drunk to mad monk?
Funny story, Kent. It's the end of the world! God loves you! He's gonna kill you!
I see. Well, we have 30 seconds left. Any other cuckoo yip yap?
Oh, here's one. Revelation 6:13. Just before the rapture, the stars will fall to the earth.
Did you know that the solar eclipse happening on April 8th is a lot more crucial than you think? Jesus spoke about Matthew that this evil, adulterous generation seeks for a sign, but no sign shall be given to it except for the sign that happened in the days of the prophet Jonah. In Luke, it says, "As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be as the coming of the Son of Man." But you will not believe the path of the solar eclipse will take. It'll cross over several towns named Nineveh and even Rapture, Indiana. But that's not even the crazy part. It also goes over the Ark. And it'll happen under the constellation Cetus, which means whale, which is what swallowed up Jonah.
What if the rapture is coming and I haven't led a good enough life?
God wouldn't spring the rapture on us unannounced. He'd send us signs like, I don't know, all the dogs getting on a spaceship and leaving.
Marge is right. The rapture isn't coming. There haven't been any ominous signs.
Follow me.
Blood is raining from the sky!
Hang on there, big fella. We'll save ya.
Judgment Day is at hand.
A lot of people are starting to believe that something major is going to happen in our world that's directly correlated with the solar eclipse coming up in April. This started after reports began circulating that extensive measures will be taken prior to the solar eclipse, including school closures, the National Guard being deployed in some counties, and officials in Texas warning people to stock up prior to the event. And even though most of these measures are being taken in preparation for the large crowd that the solar eclipse will draw in, this has not stopped people from believing that some of these measures are a bit extreme and coming up with theories that something more is happening on the day than we're being told. Theories range from some people believing that the US will get hit with a solar storm knocking out the power grid or internet, to others believing that the world is about to go through 3 days of complete darkness and then enter a new age. Now obviously we won't know for sure if anything will happen until the day of the solar eclipse.
What? The National Guard will be deployed for total solar eclipse on April 8th. Why? Why does the National Guard need to be deployed for a solar eclipse? What's so concerning? I mean, all right. You had me a little with the keeping the kids away from school. I was like, why would you do that? It's only a solar eclipse, but whatever, okay. And now the National Guard needs to be deployed. And you know, on top of that, what's the deal with stocking up on food and making sure your batteries are all charged? Like, what do they think is gonna happen during this solar eclipse? I mean, I thought it was just the moon goes in front of the sun, it gets a little dark and everything is fine. I don't understand why we need the National Guard, why we need to shut down schools, why we need to stock on supplies, and why do we need our batteries fully charged for an eclipse? What the hell's going on?
The next solar eclipse will be on April 8th, 2024. From Texas to Maine, the sun will be completely blacked out during the middle of the day. Cities in the path of totality will experience up to 4 minutes of darkness in some areas. This year's annular eclipse blocked up to 90% of the sun, leaving a ring of fire round the moon, but in a total eclipse, the sun will be completely covered by the moon.
Beyonce's new album cover is predicting the world is gonna end soon. So look, right? So you look at
just
Beyonce, it's just a horse.
Wait a minute.
Right?
I know where this is going.
Exactly. In the Christian Bible, there's a book called Revelations, right? And it talks about the end of the world.
Yeah, I know.
So like it talks about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The white horse of conquest, the red horse of war, the black horse of famine, and the pale horse of death. In the album cover, she's sitting on a pale horse. She's been taking pictures of many horses for some weird reason. Why?
Nah,
it's because she's trying to hunt us. She knows something.
The 4 horsemen of the final days.
The first horseman, the white horse. Revelation 6, 1, 2. I watched as the Lamb opened the first of the 7 seals. Then I heard one of the 4 living creatures say in a voice like thunder, "Come!" I looked, and there before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow, and he was given a crown, and he rode out as a conqueror bent on conquest. This horseman is often interpreted as representing conquest or the spread of false peace. He carries a bow and is given a crown symbolizing his authority. The red horse. Revelation 6, 3, 4. When the Lamb opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, "Come!" Then another horse came out, a fiery red one. Its rider was given power to take peace from the earth and to make people kill each other. To him was given a large sword. This horseman represents bloodshed. The black horse. Revelation 6, 5, 6. When the Lamb opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come!" I looked, and there before me was a black horse. Its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among the 4 living creatures saying, 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages, and 6 pounds of barley for a day's wages, and do not damage the oil and the wine. This horseman symbolizes famine and scarcity. The pale horse. Revelation 6, 7, 8. When the Lamb opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th living creature say, "Come!" I looked, and there before me was a pale horse. Its rider was named Death, and Hades was following close behind him. They were given power over a fourth of the earth to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth. This horseman is referred to as Death and the realm of the dead. He was given authority over a fourth of the earth to bring about death through various means. The appearance of these horsemen signifies the escalation of catastrophic events that will occur before the final judgment.
Here's my simplest explanation of the book of Revelation, especially the first 4 horses of the apocalypse. The question is, why these 4? Why these colors? There is information contained in the colors. God is not trying to confuse us, and He's not just throwing colors out there. There must be a rational justification for why He picked these 4. Take a look at your screen. What do you see? Here's the symbol, the national symbol of next door neighbor to Israel, Jordan. What colors do you see? Can you help me here? White, red, black, and green. And then if you go next door, inside the territory of Israel, there is the Palestinian, symbolized by that flag. What colors do you see on the national flag of Sudan? Let's go to Kuwait. Let's go to the United Arab Emirates. What colors do you see? All right, well, let's just go to Libya because it could just be coincidence here. Okay, let's go to Afghanistan. What do you see? Let's go to Syria. What do you see? Let's go to Iraq. What do you see? I wonder if God has successfully communicated something.
We must be alert this April 8, 2024, as we could enter the 3 days of darkness the Bible tells us. On the 8th of April, the world will witness a celestial event that has aroused both fascination and concern, a total solar eclipse, and it is not just any eclipse like the ones we have seen before, as it will be on the same day as the 3 days of darkness in Egypt. During this phenomenon, the moon will come between the earth and the sun, temporarily obscuring the earth. However, beyond its visual magnificence, this eclipse has stirred up ancient concerns and fears associated with biblical prophecies. In the biblical scriptures, astronomical phenomena are alluded to as warning signs, as the Bible tells us in Joel 2 verse 31. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and dreadful day of the Lord comes. For many, the eclipse this April 8th awakens memories of ancient beliefs about the end times and divine judgment. In the midst of a world full of uncertainty and conflict, the idea that such a celestial event could be a harbinger of cataclysmic events is a powerful reminder of the end times.
On April 8th, 2024, there will be another total solar eclipse that will mark an X right across the nation of the United States. That alone seems to have some sort of prophetic significance, as well as the fact that that takes place just a few days before the Passover that year, but also on October 14th, 2023 this year, another annular solar eclipse is going to cross the United States. And what's truly incredible about all of that, when you mark this all on a map, it looks exactly like the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, the Aleph. Some other pretty incredible things surrounding this is that on October 14th, 2023, when the annular solar eclipse will take place across the United States, that is also the day of the new moon in Jerusalem. And then on April 8th, 2024, when we get the next total solar eclipse that crosses the United States, marking the X, is that there's another new moon in Jerusalem on that date. And also April 8th happens to be the first day of the first month on the Hebrew calendar, and so it's the marking of a brand new biblical year on that date. In Luke 21:25, after Jesus says that there will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars in the last days, he said that there will also be distress of nations. Israel and Jerusalem being an absolute focal point for what takes place in the last days. It's incredible to see that lately there has been distress in Israel.
Tonight, there is unrest across Israel on the eve of a defining moment, even as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu recovers from an emergency heart procedure. The 73-year-old Prime Minister said he's in excellent health and said he will be in the Knesset Monday when his right-wing ruling coalition is set to pass the first part of his judicial overhaul plan. Opposition to the plan reached a climax this weekend with mass protests across the country. The bitter disagreement reflects the deep split in Israel between those who want a more secular and diverse nation and those with a more religious and nationalistic vision.
The prophecies of the last days and what the world will look like in the end times, I don't think is just going to happen overnight. It seems that these things are going to have to be built up to that very point, and it seems like that's what we're getting a glimpse of right now.
Great plan. Texas Red Angus, flying them 7,000 miles to Israel. Many evangelicals believe these red heifers will usher Christ's second coming. The ceremony could take place any day.
Rapture isn't coming. There haven't been any ominous signs.
Hey, we're coming up on Passover, and here's a red heifer update. Israel now has 4 red heifers that are still remaining kosher. They're looking forward to sacrificing at least one of these red heifers at Passover this year. At this point, they already have the altar built, and they already have the land purchased where this sacrifice will take place. So, could we be seeing a temple built very soon? Well, at least the gold portion of this temple could be there already. A recent rabbi has traveled to Ethiopia where gold was given for the restoration of the third temple. So it looks like things are falling into place, and we could see that red heifer sacrifice on Passover of 2024. It's been over 2,000 years since there was a kosher red heifer that could be sacrificed and ashes be collected for the purification process of Israel. Could we be looking at that being fulfilled here very soon?
To put this into perspective, 25% of the world is Muslim, 31.6% is Christian, and 0.2% is Jewish, meaning that this prophecy impacts more than half of the world's population in a very real way. Why? In short, it is believed that when the red heifer is sacrificed, it will usher in the last days and is one of the critical requirements prior to Christ's second coming. But for each religion, it means something different. What is capturing the attention of all the world right now is that in September 2022, 5 red heifers were imported from the United States with the help of an American farmer and evangelical Christian named Byron Stinson. He and Rabbi Yitzchak Mamo, an official from the Temple Institute in Jerusalem, worked to transfer the 5 qualified heifers to a breeding farm in Israel. The red heifer sacrifice would need to happen on the east of where the temple needs to be built, so the plan is to build it on the Mount of Olives. 12 years ago, land was purchased for this very purpose on the Mount of Olives and overlooks the Temple Mount. This land is owned by Rabbi Yitzchak Mamo, the same rabbi who worked with Byron Stinson on bringing the 5 qualifying red heifers to Israel. The heifers are very close to going into their 3rd year, allowing them to be used for the ritual. Many are anticipating the ritual to happen soon before the heifers get too old and are no longer qualified to be used for such a sacrifice. The Temple Institute themselves has said that they are hoping to perform the ritual soon. One of the 5 has since been deemed unqualified, while the other 4 continue to be monitored. Many of you will remember the attacks from Hamas in Israel on October 7, 2023. Part of the justification for that attack, according to Abu Obeida, the military spokesman for Hamas, was their intention to destroy the 5 red heifers in an attempt to thwart the Jewish ritual. The October 7th attack had a death toll of 695, including 36 children. According to a news outlet, a massive altar has already been constructed to perform the ceremony. According to those working on the project, the ceremony of the red heifer needs to be performed on the Mount of Olives and in a place that would have looked directly into where the temple stood. The land directly east of the Temple Mount, purchased 12 years ago, meets both of these standards. Then in a recent public appearance of Mamo, he said, "We are very close to the 3rd year of these cows. Since Moses, approximately 3,300 years ago, this ritual has only been performed 9 times. The first was overseen by Moses himself, and the last time it was performed was over 2,000 years ago, prior to Christ's mortal ministry." Jews believe that the 10th sacrifice of a red heifer will usher in the building of the 3rd temple, which is a prerequisite for the coming of the Messiah. Older beliefs state that it would be the Messiah himself that would perform the sacrifice. This year, the Jewish people will celebrate Passover on April 22nd. Others believe the sacrifice could happen even sooner, on March 29th, because it is the Sabbath of the red heifer. But the Temple Institute themselves continues to say that they are waiting to hear from God if this is the time to perform the sacrifice.
Did you know that this Bible prophecy is happening right in front of your eyes? Isaiah 2:19 says that when the tribulation begins, that God's enemies will crawl into holes in the ground, they will hide in caves in the rocks from the terror of the Lord. But why is it that all of a sudden so many billionaires are building bunkers to survive the apocalypse?
I'm excavating. It's going down. Y'all know how I love real estate, and I usually like to build and go up. We going underground now. One time for all my doomsday preppers. Elon Musk, I see you. I saw your ground plans. I'm impressed, but guess what? My bunker gonna have a garage. My bunker gonna have wings. Huh? Yeah, we breaking ground. Huge excavations. You gotta have your fluids. I got a water maker, a machine that makes water out of H2O. I got a water maker. We got our canned goods. So if you're thinking ground,
Don't you think it's weird that 15 billionaires are building bunkers? Listen carefully, it's scary. In the last week, a jaw-dropping 15 billionaires secretly constructed underground bunkers. Billionaires such as Mark Zuckerberg, OpenAI CEO, Sam Altman, and even President Biden are rushing to build their own bunkers. Conspiracy theorists aren't buying that this is just a coincidence. So what do our wealthy elites apparently know that we don't? With global tensions at an all-time high, some speculate it's related to looming worldwide chaos. Are billionaires preparing for economic collapse, natural disaster, or even nuclear war? The timing is extremely suspicious. One truth is clear. These bunkers are not for show. They're fully equipped high-tech shelters stockpiled with years of supplies. But what terrifying threat has so worried the powers that be? Some just see paranoid panic. But could billionaires truly be receiving inside warnings of impending catastrophe? If the richest humans are now seeking shelter, should the rest of us start developing our own escape plans just in case?
I'm going to explain to everybody in this video why America is going to be destroyed, why God is going to have divine intervention in making sure that America is destroyed. And it all starts after the flood. See, Satan has a beast out of the sea, which came out of the flood. So the world ended after the flood. It's the new beginning. And Satan already had a plan. It was a 7-head, 10-horn beast. And the 7 heads are kingdoms. And his goal is with those 7 heads is one of them would hopefully rule the world. Well, the Tower of Babel with Nimrod was one of the closest, especially for it being the first one. Nimrod was a great leader. He was a mighty man, mighty men. He was like everything to everybody. He was a great leader, great warrior, a speaker, good looking. Everybody looked up to him. They followed him. They listened to him. He was recruiting people around the world. See, America's a melting pot. We're the only country that is bringing people in. Not the immigrants. I'm just talking throughout history. We're the melting pot. Right there, we already started mimicking Babylon, because he was recruiting and bringing all these people in to help build his Tower of Babel. And the tower was there to kind of throw it up in God's face, saying, if you ever flooded the earth again, we will climb all the way to the top of this building and you can't wipe us out. So Nimrod was anti-God. He was against him. Everything he was doing was opposed to God. But this is where all the false religions, this is where all the secret societies, the sun worship, everything came from, was Babylon. But just remember, the key to Satan's plan is to have a one world government ruled by one. So today, what we're witnessing, what we're seeing is America is a melting pot. We're bringing everybody in. We created this great nation. But here's the thing. America is Mystery Babylon. Why? Because they are about to control the world. And it's never been done before. So Satan's plan, it will happen. They achieve it with the New World Order, the Great Reset. But it's not going to be America necessarily that runs the world. America's setting it up for the United Nations. So when everything that we're witnessing and seeing that's happening, it's all happening by America, funded by American citizens, not knowing, but we're pushing the war. I mean, look at Hamas. They're attacking Israel. We paid for the missiles on both sides. We paid for the Iron Dome. We paid for everything Hamas is using by giving Iran money. So that's what America's doing. We put people in positions and places to where they don't like each other. Religions groups next to each other don't like each other. We're allies with both of them, and then we keep them fighting. But our goal is going to happen very soon. So the New World Order, once it's done and everybody's controlled under the United Nations, the United States will sit back. When you look at the Tower of Babel and you go back to Babylon, then they had a great city. So everything that we're doing mimics them. So they had Babylon and a great city. Well, America is Mystery Babylon, and we have a great city, which is New York. Now, here's the kicker. New York is where the seat of the beast is, because the United Nations, which is going to be the 8th and final head, that's going to rule the world and achieve Satan's goal and the United States goal, is in New York City. It was created and funded by America, and the headquarters is right there. So now I'll go back to why and how America gets destroyed, because it says that the great city in Revelation 16, the 5th vial or bowl, the seat of the beast goes dark and his kingdom goes dark. Well, this is God now. This is divine intervention. God's had it with us. We completed what he took, and he moved everybody back then in Babylon, and he changed their languages. He didn't ever want to see this happen again. And then here's America bringing everybody back, doing exactly what Nimrod did. And instead of building a tower, we built the United Nations. And that is how the world unites. So God has had it with us. So our kingdom goes dark. We have no power for a long time. It could be months to a year. Half or 3/4 of the American population will be dead just because of that event. And then it says that it will fall by earthquakes that haven't been seen since the beginning of man, and it will divide it into 3 nations, and those nations will fall. So we're going to see division in America too. America is going to be divided, and we're going to fall and collapse. And it says the great city will be destroyed in 1 hour by fire. And basically, the 10 horns, which is Satan's plan, is going to come out, and God actually uses them. So God is against Babylon from the beginning. He's against the new Babylon. He's going to use Satan's 10 horns, his 10 countries, to destroy Mystery Babylon. Then Jesus comes back, and he destroys the 10 horns. The only thing that makes sense in our time that's going to create something to control the entire world is the United States, hands down. There's no doubt about it. That's what we're witnessing. So everything that we're seeing is all false flags. They are doing everything they can in order to achieve their goal, and they do. And we know that they achieve their goal, but we will pay the ultimate price. And God warns us. He says, my people, get out of her. Don't be partakers in her sins. Look it up. You'll see it too. God bless.
All right, Grand Rising, everybody out there. Hope everybody's family is good. I hope everybody's safe. Hope everybody has what they need. And I hope everybody's family's in good health. Today we're going over the fourth trumpet, which is Revelations chapter 8 and verse 11, I believe. I have the scriptures. We're going to prove with Bible chapter and verse and with some articles that the sun is going down at noon. That will be the fourth trumpet. The sun will go down in broad daylight. Let's get busy. Revelation chapter 8, verse 12. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars. So as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. This is a prophecy that was spoken of in early time in Amos chapter 8 and verse 9, that these things would happen. Let's go to the prophecy that fulfills Revelation chapter 8 verse 12. Amos chapter 8 verse 9. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord God, that I will cause the sun to go down at noon, and I will darken the earth in the clear day. This is God telling you he's getting ready to bring terror on this planet. He's getting ready to bring the light down in the midday, so that way the sun doesn't shine all day long. Now to start out, it will rise from the east. It will rise as it usually does, but it will go down at such a time that will spook the entire earth. Amos chapter 8 verse 10. And I will turn your feasts into mourning, and all your songs into lamentation. And I will bring up sackcloth upon all loins, and baldness upon every head. And I will make it as the mourning of an only son, and the end thereof as a bitter day. I'm telling you, y'all, this is an article I read from a Christian pastor who said he had a vision from this, which is a true vision. It says, vision of sun going down at noon and earth darkening in broad daylight. See, Amos chapter 8 and verse 9. And then we have Revelations chapter 8 and verse 12. It says, time and day is coming, and it is, and here it is, when the world is going to wake up early in the morning, amazed, mesmerized, in fear. World clocks will be ticking, morning, but the sun will come out at a different position from its usual east. The sun will appear in the evening position, shining brightly as though, what's up, man? As though it is in the east side, rising up. See this? The man had a vision. The Bible says, despise not prophesying, meaning don't despise somebody because they say something. You have to look into it. Don't just condemn people because they say stuff. This is a fact. Now, as we see it with Bible chapter and verse, that the sun, the moon, and the stars will not shine. It will be complete darkness. God is going to put a lot of us in fear. Don't worry.
3 days of darkness, let me tell you everything that I know, and Lord knows I do not want to make this video. I don't like to speculate, and I'm not given to internet conspiracy theories, but I have something that I have to tell you. I do see something here. I've been seeing it here for a long time. It's time to come clean. I moved my family out of Alaska because of a gut feeling. Wasn't the only reason, it was just the first one that caused me to look for all the rest. Maybe it's silly, maybe none of this is true, but it bothered me so bad that I moved my family out of Alaska. This article was ran by Forbes over 6 years ago and can only help you speculate. This is the Edgar Cayce map, a clairvoyant communing with demons to see the future. Potentially total garbage. Only I don't think it is. Because this makes some kind of sense to me that I cannot explain. Now, until very recently, and I mean this month, I did not know that there was a correlation between total solar eclipses and devastating earthquakes. And now that I do, the plot is getting real thick, fam. In September of 1811, a total solar eclipse took this path through the United States. And in December of 1811, the New Madrid fault line popped off in a series of devastating earthquakes that lasted all the way through into January. Now, the scientists say there is increased earthquake activity in the face of new moons, a new moon being required for a total solar eclipse. There is a scientific correlation there that seems to have everything to do with causation. But it was 3 months after the eclipse. What's your point? If a barge goes under a bridge and hits one of the supports and damages it, there might be 2,000 vehicles roll over the bridge before it gives out, is what I'm saying. So that the new moon of a solar eclipse is like a barge passing under a bridge and hitting one of the supports. This is the path the total solar eclipse took in July 1963. Funny thing, it passed right through Talkeetna, Alaska, where my family and I lived, long before we were born. And then in March of 1964, a devastating earthquake tore Anchorage all to pieces. Solar eclipse is not an instant trigger, it's more like a fatal wound to the fault line. Doesn't mean there's going to be a terrible earthquake after every total solar eclipse, but every total solar eclipse affects the fault lines they pass over because of that new moon, scientifically. Whether I explain these events spiritually or physically, they are true both ways. It is the spiritual producing the physical. After the total solar eclipse of 1811, there was a series of devastating earthquakes, followed by years of decline straight into the Great Depression. Followed by the Great Depression, did you hear? Do total solar eclipses just mean earthquakes? No. They affect more than just fault lines. They warn of much more than just earthquakes. Look, if I could make this stuff up out of my own mind, I'd be God. Get it? But instead, look at us little bitty babies just learning about his creation, don't even know how it works. So, Rutro, what the stink is that converging right over top of the New Madrid fault? I mean, can you say X marks the spot? What is going on there? This is the path of the solar eclipse from August 21st of 2017. Well, nothing happened after that one, did it? It didn't warn of anything at all. Y'all forget about COVID and every single thing that has happened to our country since then? That wasn't enough to get your attention, get your minds right? Well, this is the path of that solar eclipse that's about to happen on April 8th. And the very spot where it crosses the path of the last one is the New Madrid fault line. Y'all don't see that right there? If you do not believe in God and only believe in science, that right there is alarming, bruh. And I mean, call the National Guard. See if they can stop it. Time for a Bible punch in the mouth. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Y'all think that's a random coincidence? This is the scientific prediction should that fault line pop off. Should that New Madrid fault line pop off right there, this is the prognosticator's view of what the future topography of the United States of America is going to look like. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to happen at all, only that it would make great and terrible sense to me if it did. I am no authority on this subject as far as men are concerned. I got 2 years of videos you can scroll though and decide for yourself whether I have authority and where it might be from. And still, that's not to say that this is true or false, only that it makes sense to me, but who am I? The scientists have no authority whatsoever to tell us how it's actually going to happen, and neither do I know exactly how it's going to play out in the details. We are all speculating on what exactly it's going to be. It is God who is in control of what it will be. But He gave us plenty of potential to consider in the face of world history. In March of 2011, a 9.1 undersea megathrust earthquake occurred in the Pacific Ocean, 72 miles off the coast of Japan. In July of 2010, there was a total solar eclipse that passed over the Pacific. Why would this affect Japan at all? Oh snap, this is the Ring of Fire, and that total solar eclipse went exactly this way. And that megathrust earthquake hit Japan this way. Oh, there's a pattern, a recurring series of events here. A pattern I did not know when I got the gut feeling to move my family out of Alaska. Not that that counts for anything. Except with me, I trust my gut. Did you know if they knew all the variables, they could predict all of the earthquakes too? It's on a schedule. What's funny is when I made that first Sign of Jonah video, I wasn't thinking about any of this at all. Not considering this as a potential for anything. I was thinking World War III is on our doorstep, you know, and it is. The economy goes down, maybe a new round of disease, which thing is pestilence. Oh snap, if pestilence followed the 2017 eclipse, is there some way to know where we are on the timeline of what it means, what eclipses mean, or, you know, what's following them specifically, each one? Probably, I haven't looked at that yet, but I'm pretty sure, you know, you'd find it. 'Cause wouldn't that make sense? 3 Days of Darkness, as we're all hearing about it, is based on a false private prophecy wherein in 3 days of darkness, the Catholic Church's enemies will all be destroyed. And that might sound good on the surface, but they got that whole idea from the Bible to begin with, and men have been making false prophecies out of stuff they got in the Bible this whole time. Internet conspiracies also need not apply, because they're so chock full of disinformation, it's hard to sort it out, you know? 3 days of darkness was one of the plagues that descended on Egypt during the Exodus. Precluding the Exodus. Does that mean we're about to get an Exodus? I stinking hope so, I really do. Does it mean we're gonna get a revival? Well, man, that's what I would surely love. Does it mean we're going into the wilderness? Well, that's what comes with it. Don't complain about the lack of onions, and don't ask for no geese. In the wilderness, they wanted geese. God gave them geese. Everybody that ate goose died. Y'all think this is a game based on your pleasures and desires? It is not. This surely means something rather than nothing. I can't tell you exactly what's gonna happen. I am ignorant of far too much. I can tell you exactly what there is to do about it though, and how to prepare entirely. The only way to prepare for what is gonna follow this. It ain't stacking up food, water, and ammo. It's not fortifying your shelter. It's not preps. Nobody's promised tomorrow whether there's a calamity or not. What are you preparing for? The only way to prepare is to keep the Lord's commands. And when whatever happens, happens, if you are found keeping your Lord's commands, it don't matter what happens.
This is a coming eclipse that could spell civil war, division, apocalypse. What's coming, Troy Brewer?
All kinds of crazy stuff are coming. One of the things that is huge is going to take place this year that cannot be denied, cannot be ignored, is this incredible sign in the heavens, the next great American eclipse. And that's happening on April the 8th of the year 2024. And it follows an eclipse that was preceded 7 years ago in September of 2017. And man, I gotta tell you what it's all about.
So 7 years ago, there was an eclipse in 2017 that stopped at 7 Salems.
Yes.
What did that indicate?
Well, it represents 7 years of peace. It also represents that God Almighty is speaking to the church, the 7 churches.
Wow, Salem.
So you have Jerusalem, right? Absalem,
Yes.
right? Which has to do with peace. So it has to do with the 7 churches. And it started in Salem, Oregon, tracked right across our country, and it looks like it's wearing a seatbelt whenever you look at that, right? It like goes, and where does it exit? It exits Fort Sumter, which is where the beginning of the Civil War took place.
Wow.
Okay?
That's where it ended.
That's where it ended. So you got 7 years of peace, and then 7 years later, which is going to happen on April the 8th of this year, it begins in Eagle Pass, Texas, specifically a park that was named after General Shelby from the Confederate Army.
Okay.
And by the way, that's actually where the Confederacy ended. So you need to understand, it began at the end of the first eclipse. The second eclipse begins at the end of the Civil War. General Shelby actually buried a Confederate flag there in Shelby Park. Now, have you seen anything on the news recently at Shelby Park?
Yeah.
Eagle Pass, holding the federal states, federal law versus state law. Is that reminiscent of anything? And then it goes through this new eclipse that happens on April the 8th, but it goes through 7 American cities. It's actually called Nineveh, beginning with Nineveh, Texas.
Are you guys getting this? I mean, you can't make this stuff up. What does that mean then? What does that indicate to us?
It's the sign of Jonah the prophet. It's the sign of you better repent. It's a sign of the clock is ticking. You got 40 days, right? So the sign of Jonah the prophet, everybody with the Western mindset sees that as, you know, Jesus goes to the belly of the earth for 3 days, and then he comes up, and then he's actually resurrected. That's a Western view of that. The Eastern view is actually the sign of Jonah the prophet is the sky goes dark. And indeed it did while Jesus was on the cross. Because it's 726 years before King Jesus, the day that the brother walked into Nineveh, he declared, you got 40 days. Well, what was going on? It was the first of Elul on the Hebrew calendar, and 40 days later is Yom Kippur, or the Day of Atonement, Judgment Day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you can literally map it out that in 726 that there was a great eclipse. So on the day that he came in and he actually said those things, the sky went dark, and he got their attention. If you do a little bit of research, if you look up Exodus 4:8, Exodus, April the 8th, you know what it says? It's God Almighty telling Brother Moses, if they will not believe you for the first sign, they shall believe you for the second sign. That's Exodus 4:8. And this happens at Passover time on 4:8.
do you have any books on the rapture?
Yes, this one is 15% off.
I'll take everything you got.
And would you like to take advantage of our Friends of Flanders discount?
No, thank you.
Homie, you didn't touch your second dinner tonight. And you're reading books. Word books. What's going on?
Marge, the rapture is nigh. These books will help me figure out how nigh. This whole deal is scientifically proven. 3:15 p.m., May 18th. That's when the rapture will begin.
May 18th?